Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video, where today I'm going over the updated FAQs and Errata for Kill Team. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Did you find it useful and helpful? Remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games, and an affiliate link and Discord code at Crossfire Games, as well as a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. So if you weren't aware, the Kill Team app has been updated today, so you need to manually update it in either the Google Play Store, Apple Store, and it has a bunch of brand new FAQ and erratas and rules changes for the core game. So I'm going to go through all of that now, so let's get started. Starting off, we have a Kill Team app user guide. So now it shows you what the tabs are, the publications, the subsections. It just goes over kill teams, mission packs, how to search stuff, profiles, and deleting publications. So you can choose to delete a publication now if you don't want it on your phone. And it goes over what updates are, so you can now tell when stuff has been updated, as well as team rules and mission pack publications, as well as subsections. So very useful. We now finally have a user guide for the app. With the core rules update log, we first have key principles damage. So some rules allow an incapacitated operative to perform a free action before being removed from the kill zone. Such an operative cannot perform more than one free action, excluding place marker in this instance, and that operative's player decides the order of any of its rules that occur before it's removed from the kill zone, taking precedence over the player with initiative deciding. So before it was like, oh yeah, literally who had initiative decides. Now it's just basically the player who's controlling the operative decides, which makes more sense. Key principles distances. Change the relevant part of the last sentence of the second paragraph to read, if an operative is carrying a mission marker or objective, that marker is the same distance as that operative, because I guess technically it counted as not being in the kill zone. So now if someone's picking up and carrying something, you measure from the operative. And then add actions for shooting, selecting valid targets. This is the biggest change. An operative cannot be in cover from and obscured by the same terrain feature. If it would be, the defender must select one of them, cover or obscured, for that sequence when the operative is selected as the valid target. This is a huge change. We saw LVO trying to fix this with, like, you can't be within 2 inches of the point it originates, but then that would have been too complicated. This was something that was communicated to me at Kill Team seminars, but now has been actually made real, and it does contradict the core rules, which is nice, but it's a big change, and it should help stuff being obscured and in cover from the same terrain piece. So you can still be, let's say, behind one piece of heavy and then obscured by the other. You just can't benefit from the same from both. Then you've got rules commentary. Can you explain further what it means when a rule starts that an operative is in cover and obscured if another target was, e.g. Blast from Blooded Dark for War? When determining cover and obscured for the operative, whatever was determined for the primary or original target is the same. For example, in the case of Blast, secondary targets are not in cover obscured, or if the primary target was not and they are the primary target was. So effectively for stuff like Get Down Mr. President, employs that change targets. Now the original target is the marker for being obscured and in cover, because before it wasn't. And then question, do rules that prevent operative from being selected as a valid target, e.g. Hearthkyn Jaeger, prevent the operative from being selected as a secondary target for a weapon with a blast weapon rule? No, as secondary targets from blast are not selected. So if you basically have super conceal / cover, blast hits you normally. I guess it doesn't for Torrent, because Torrent selects valid targets as normal. When counteracting, if a rule has increased or decreased the cost of an action, does this affect what actions an operative can perform? For example, Angels of Death Mobile Chapter Tactic allows an operative to fall back for 1 AP, and the answer is yes. So if you have ways to modify stuff to make it free, you can just do 1 action if it cost 2 before, which is nice. Makes a slight buff to counteracting. Then we have a change to the approved ops card pack for Plant Beacon. This is technically a nerf. So for Plant Beacons, it says more than 6 inches from your other beacon mission markers. In a kill zone that uses the close quarters rules, e.g. Gallodark, ignore wall terrain when measuring this distance. Which basically means before, let's say you had a wall with a door. If the door was closed, you could now place the beacons within 6 inches of each other. Now you can't. So even if there's like a solid wall piece, that's ignored, which is fine. It's a slight nerf to plant beacons on Gallodark, which is completely needed. The only weird thing is there was a TO in the UK using this ruling before everyone else, and we were all kind of confused why that ruling was made, but I guess they can see the future, but it's fine. Plant Beacon's nerfs is kind of necessary. So it's an unintentional nerf, but something to remember because basically everyone runs Plant Beacon, so it's slightly worse in Gallodark now. Then for universal equipment, the portable barricade has been updated. So additional text added to the end of the second sentence of the second effect. After it moves, set up that portable barricade so it's connected again, but the portable barricade cannot be set up within 2 inches of other equipment terrain features, access points, or accessible terrain. If this is not possible, the portable barricade is not set up again. So effectively, you can't end this in such a way that it's blocking doors and stuff. Although, because you pick it up, effectively, you can still move through an access point and accessible terrain as long as you don't end that barricade within 2 inches of it. The more important thing is other terrain features as well, because people are using the portable barricade to effectively like jump over razor wire and stuff. So now you have to be more than 2 inches from that. It kind of like limits the effect, especially with mines. So that's an important and needed change to the portable barricade. Now starting off with factions, we have the Blooded. So for Firefight Ploys Dark for 4, if it's the shoot action, the other operative is only in cover or obscured if the original target was. So this is just the universal change for Get Down Mr. President. Then you've got Strategy Ploys Bitter Demise. Whenever a friendly Blooded operative is incapacitated before it's removed from the kill zone, roll the dice. So just updating when that happens. And then Brimstone Grenadier operative Explosive Demise. If this operative is incapacitated before it's removed from the kill zone, you can use this rule. Once again, synergizing with this change where, you know, so there's no initiative clash. It's the player who controls the operative decides when these are resolved. So just general universal changes for Blooded. For Brood Brothers, they've actually seen a lot of changes. So for Pervasive, change to read during each friendly Brood Brother operative's activation, you can ignore the vertical distance of 2 inches they move during one climb up. So this is a common thing we see. So I believe they have now clarified that you can climb down. So ladders you can climb down, but everything else, spoilers, that says when you modify their climb is only when climbing up. So we can climb down now. So a nice clarification there. Firefight Ploys Unquestioning Loyalty is the same as Get Down Mr. President. The new target is in cover and obscured only if the original one was. And then Psychic Familiars have had a slight update. Whenever the operative has a conceal order and is in cover, because before, I guess with the wording, it didn't matter what order they had, so they now have to be in conceal to actually benefit from their super conceal. And now we get another change, which is kind of universal, is the medic. So the medic's changed quite a lot. So the first time during each turning point that a friendly operative, excluding Patriarch, would be incapacitated while visible to and within fringes of the operative, you can use this rule providing neither this nor that operative is within control range of an enemy operative. If you do, that friendly operative isn't incapacitated, has 1 rune remaining, and cannot be incapacitated for the remainder of the action. After that action, that friendly operative can immediately perform a free dash, but must end that move within this operative's control range, subtract 1 from this and that operative's APL stat until the end of the next activation, respectively. And if this rule was used during that friendly operative's activation, that activation ends. You cannot use this rule if this operative is incapacitated, or if it's a shoot action and this operative would be the primary or secondary target. So the big change here is that our medic doesn't work against Blast and Torrent, which is actually good because it was a timing nightmare even last edition. So basically all medics can't benefit if you are using the Blast and Torrent special rule. But considering most Blast and Torrent weapons are Blast and Torrent 2 and medic ranges are 3, it should be okay for you still to space out, but you just have to be careful with your spacing. Then for the rules commentary, how does the Ruthless Coordination Firefight ploy interact with an enemy operative that's wholly within an area of smoke when the friendly operative that is intervening is determined from is within 2 inches of the enemy operative? Smoke grenades and similar rules, e.g. Mandrake's Weave Darkness, have no effect in this scenario. So for the Ruthless Coordination ploy, you measure like the valid target from another friendly operative. So if that friendly operative is now within 2 inches of someone with smoke, they don't benefit from smoke. So just a nice clarification there. Chaos Cult have had changes. So for the Accursed Gifts Deformed Wings, whenever this operative is climbing up, you can treat the vertical distance as X. So before, it clarifies now you can only use it when climbing up, but also you don't have to use it because there was this weird interactions where if you had wings, you couldn't use ladders. So now you can use ladders, which is great for Chaos Cult players. Then you've got Firefight Ploy's Faithful Follower. Add additional text. If it's the shoot action, that other operative is only in cover and obscured if the original target was, which is just once again clarifying get down Mr. President. And then for Frenzied Demise, use this when a friendly Chaos Cult mutant or Torment operative is incapacitated before it's removed from the kill zone, then you blow up. So nice clarifications there. Generally just, once again, universal changes for Chaos Cult, nothing generally specific. Then for Corsair Voidscarred, if a Starstorm duelist is on guard and I interrupt an activation to perform a shoot action against an enemy operative within its control range, can I use the quick on the trigger rule to perform a shoot action normally, or must it be a point blank shot? The former, you can perform the shoot action normally. So this is just a nice clarification, because technically before you would have had to do a point blank, but normally the Starstorm duelist can shoot while in control range, so a nice clarification here. Deathcore have generally just had one change, so this is the medic change. So once again, if you're shooting at a medic, or like, you know, someone would benefit from the medic, they don't benefit if they're the target of a blast or torrent weapon, which is just the universal change we've seen for everyone, so nothing big for Deathcore. For Elucidian Starstriders, once again, they also have had the change with the medic, so their medic rule doesn't work while within blast or torrent range. So that's the only thing that's changed with the team and their medic. Then Exaction Squad, once again their medic has also changed to everyone else, so it can't work against blast and torrent, but they've had a rules clarification for one of their abilities. So when using the Guilt Reveals Itself strategy ploy, if my opponent has a rule that says it cannot be selected as a valid target, taking precedence over all other rules except for being within 2 inches, e.g. Harkin Jaeger's in position, does this increase the 2-inch distance exception to 4 inches? Yes. So what this means is when you are shooting against someone within Super Conceal, Guilt Reveal Itself increases that range to 4 inches instead of having to be within 2, which is a nice buff for Exaction Squad, makes them even better into certain kill teams and operatives. For Farstalker Kinband, for Bound, you change to read during each friendly operative's activation, you can ignore the first vertical distance of 2 inches they move during one climb up. So once again, this is just clarifying for general abilities that benefit climbing, they only work when you're climbing up. For the Gellerpox Infected, first you have Putrescent Demise. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly Gellerpox infective operative excluding mutoid vermin is incapacitated before it's removed from the kill zone, then you blow up. So once again, a universal change here. And then for the Glitchling operative, whenever this operative has a conceal order and is in cover, then it benefits from Super Conceal. So now it has to be on a conceal order like the familiars from Brood Brothers. So just general changes here, nothing really that specific. Then for Hearthkyn Salvagers, their medic has also been changed, so it doesn't work if you're being shot by blast or torrent. And then you've got faction equipment climbing ropes, well, climbing rigs. Whenever a friendly operative is climbing up, you can treat the vertical distance as. Once again, they had this weird scenarios like with Chaos Cult where if there was a ladder and they had climbing rigs, they couldn't use the climbing rigs. Now they don't have to. So just a nice little change here. Hierotek Circle have seen some minor changes. So when using the Technomancer, if you ever use the Technomancer for Augment Weapon, note that you can select a Staff of Light or Arcane Conduit. You only select the additional weapon rules for either the ranged or melee profiles of that weapon, because I guess people were arguing that you needed to use both. Like, well, because it was the same weapon, you would update both, but now you can only choose the melee or range profile, so a nice clarification there. Then for rules commentary, you have how does the Steadfast rule interact with rules that treat the total APL stat of enemy operatives as 1 lower, e.g. Phobos Strike Team's Terror. The Steadfast rule would treat the relevant operative's APL stat as 3, but the total APL stat contesting of the marker would still be reduced by 1. For example, if one friendly operative that had both the Steadfast rule and was affected by Terror is contesting a marker, the total APL would be 2. If 2 friendly operatives with that same condition contest a marker, the total APL would be 5. So just a nice clarification for Immortal Guards and stuff with their boosted APL stats, so nice there. How does the Magnify Weapon rule interact with an enemy operative that's wholly within an area of smoke when that friendly operative that's been treated as the active operative for determining valid target cover and obscured is within 2 inches of the enemy operative? Smoke grenades and similar rules such as Mandrake's Weave Darkness have no effect in this scenario. So very similar, well, exactly the same as the Brood Brother ruling. So just a nice buff to Magnify here. For Hunter Clade, they've had one change. So for the Firefight ploys, Omnissiah's Imperative, change the 4th bullet point to read for Aggressor. You can ignore the first vertical distance of 2 inches this operative moves during one climb up. So once again, a universal change to climbing benefits. Unless you're a ladder, you can't climb down, you know, with those special rule. So general changes here. Then for Imperial Navy breaches, they've had technically a nerf. So for team selection, change the relevant part to read, other than armsman operatives, your kill team can only include each operative once. So basically, because they forgot gunners weren't unique operatives, people are arguing they could take 2 Meltagons or 2 Plasma, and now you can't. And I hope the people who were doing so, who had modeled second melters, are now very happy, because people were adamant that this was intentional, but it clearly wasn't. So breaches technically nerfed, because now they can no longer take double melter or double plasmas. Then for Inquisitorial agents, if they take the Tempestus Science Medic, that medic has now been updated to work how other medics do, so basically it doesn't work against Blast and Torrent, so that's fine. And then when using the Absolute Authority Firefight ploy, can I use it after seeing some of the effects of a ploy uses? For example, if they must select an operative, can I use it after they select them? No, you must use this ploy when it is declared, but before any of its rules are resolved. Note that we expect players to be sporty and give their opponent the opportunity to use Absolute Authority when they declare a ploy before resolving its rules. So whenever you're playing into Inquisitorial agents, when you announce a ploy, you have to go, I'm going to use X ploy. Are you going to use Absolute Authority? And then they go, no. Okay, now I'm going to use its abilities. So then an opponent can't go, oh, actually, I will Absolute Authority that. No, they have to decide first. So just nice clarification for both players there. And then when using the Intense Scrutiny strategy ploy, if my opponent has a rule that says it cannot be selected as a valid target, taking precedence over all other rules except being within 2 inches, such as the Harkenjäger imposition, does this increase the 2-inch distance exception to 4? Yes. So exactly same as Exaction Squad. So technically a really great buff to Inquisitor agents who really needed it. That was great. Yay. Then for Kasrkin, the only thing Kasrkin have is a medic nerf. So the medic now doesn't work against Blast or Torrent, but that's just a universal change. So no direct nerf towards Kasrkin. Then for Mandrakes, with the Dirge Maw operative for Haunting Focus, change the 4th sentence to read, the next time your opponent would activate an enemy operative that has one of your Haunting Focus tokens, if this operative is ready, you can activate this operative first. You cannot do so if you also roll to prevent that operative's activation with the Night Fiend's operative's Howling Whispers additional during this turning point. So if the leader also stops someone from activating, you then can't activate the Dirge Maw. So a nice clarification there. And then you change the last sentence to read, after completing this operative's activation, your opponent activates that enemy operative if possible, or activates a different enemy operative if they can't. So for example, if the Dirge Maw kills the target it was haunting, then your opponent now can activate someone else instead of you gaining activation next. So good clarifications there. And then for the Night Fiend operative Howling Whispers, you can roll 1d6. You cannot do so if you also interact with that operative's activation with the Dirge Maw operative's Haunting Focus additional rule during this turning point. So just eliminating some double negative activation, well, deactivation there, which is good to see. Then for rules commentary, how does the Soul Strike weapon rule interact with rules that allow your opponent to retain defense dice results of 5+ as critical successes, such as with Hardy Chapter Tactic, or retain results of a specific number as a success, such as with Elucidian Starstriders? The Soul Strike weapon takes precedence. For example, even with the Hardy Chapter Tactic, a 5 would be a fail, not a critical success for the Angel of Death operative, as it's higher than their APL stat of 3. So a nice buff to Mandrakes to get around people trying to say, because of my armored bodysuit, or such as, I don't care about you damaging my soul. Now your soul does get damaged, I'm afraid. For the Nemesis Claw for Firefight ploys Death to the False Emperor, you change to read, use a Firefight ploy after rolling your attack dice for a friendly Nemesis Claw operative if it's shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against an enemy operative that has the Imperium keyword. So just clarifying the timing when you use it. Then for the Fearmonger operative, this has actually been buffed. Whenever an operative that has one of your Terrachem tokens is activated, inflict D3 damage on it. This is actually changing how similar effects read throughout the kill teams in general, but now instead of starting in the ready step, it's when they activate. So the Fearmonger is actually a lot better. So a nice odd buff to Nemesis Claw there. Then for Novitiates, Firefight ploy's Glorious Martyrdom. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Novitiate operative is incapacitated before it's removed from the kill zone. Just general clarifications there. And once again, their medic has also been updated, so it doesn't work against blast or torrent. So just universal changes for novitiates, nothing specific there. Then for pathfinders, when using the firefight ploy savior protocols, that friendly drone operative is only in cover or obscured if the original target was, which mirrors get down Mr. President, so just universal changes. And then with the medic, it only works if you're not using blast or torrent against them, which once again is just universal changes here. No specific nerfs or targeted stuff towards pathfinders. Then for Phobos strike team, for the Reaver Sergeant and Warrior operatives using Grav Shoe and Grapnel Launcher rule, whenever this operative is climbing up, you can treat the vertical distance as X. So once again, you can use it when climbing up because you can just drop down normally with your Grav Shoots. And then the Helix Adept operative, once again, it doesn't work against blast or torrent rules, which is very nice, so a nice clarification there. Then for Plague Marines, for poison, you change the relevant part to read, the operative this weapon is being used against, excluding friendly Plague Marine operatives, gains one of your poison tokens. So for example, if blast or other stuff, it doesn't affect friendly operatives. And then for poisonous demise, use this firefight ploy when a friendly plague marine operative is incapacitated before it's removed from the kill zone. Then you carry out its effects, which is just general. And then for the champion operative grandfather's blessing rule, whenever an enemy operative has one of your plague tokens, loses one or more wounds within 7 inches of this operative gains up to an equal number of lost wounds to a maximum of 3 lost wounds per turning point, and only if this operative isn't incapacitated. So before, if someone lost even 1 wound, you would heal 3 wounds. Now you have to lose the equal number of wounds to heal the equal number of wounds. So if someone is activated and they lose 1, you only heal 1. It means your maximum is 3 wounds, but if they take 3 wounds, you heal 3 wounds. So a nice clarification there. Technically a slight nerf with the leader, but it was just clarifying because no one really knew how it actually worked. So that's great to see. Then for Ratlings, the Battlemart operative early warning rule, you change the last sentence to read, in either case, each one cannot end that move within 2 inches of an enemy operative. So this basically means now if you charge base to base into someone, the battle mark can now allow them to just do a free fall back, because before it was 3 inches, so they actually couldn't leave the range of someone charging the dog. Now they can, so the battle mark is actually useful and working as intended now. So technically a buff there. And then for the raider operative with the grappling hook rule, change the relevant part to read, whenever this operative is climbing up, you can treat the vertical distance as X. So once again, just universal changes there. Then for the rules commentary, can you clarify what the team selection page means when saying up to 3 times, instead of selecting one of these operatives, you can select one Rattling ploy to cost you 0 CP for the battle, in reference to Bullgrin and Ogrin operatives? A Rattling kill team always consists of 1 Rattling fixer and 10 additional operatives. Up to 3 of those additional operatives can be Bullgrins or Ogrins. For each of those that is not, you can select a different Rattling operative and 1 ploy to cost you 0 CP for the battle. That's just because people are arguing you could only get the 3 ploys if you didn't specifically take those operatives and no other operative. So if you wanted 3 free ploys, you'd be down to 8 Rattlings, which would make no sense. So just some good clarification there. And then can you clarify what you cannot use this rule after consecutive enemy activation means in the Scarper rule? After each enemy operative's activation, there is a possible opportunity to use Scarper. Whenever you use one of these opportunities to perform a free dash action with a friendly operative, you must pass on your next opportunity to do so, which means, let's say your opponent activates once, then you Scarper, then they activate with their next activation, you then can't Scarper again. But also if they group activate, let's say they group activate 1 operative, then you Scarper there, and then if they group activate with the second operative, you then can't Scarper there, but then when they activate normally, then you can Scarper. So just some nice clarifications there, really needed for Rattling, so some nice good changes overall. Then for the Scout Squad with the Hunter operative with its Grapnel rule, whenever this operative is climbing up, you can treat the vertical distance as X. So once again, he can use it to climb up, but not climb down. So a nice change there. Then for Tempestus Aquilons, for the strategy ploys drop and secure, change the relevant part to read, until the ready step of the next turning point when determining control of that marker. So there's changing instead of the end of the turning point to the start of the next turning point, which helps for some timing issues, but just technically a nice change there. And then for Firefight Ploy's hot drop, from the first sentence change to read, use this Firefight Ploy after rolling your attack dice for a friendly Tempestus Aquilon operative that either landed or dropped from advantage terrain at least 2 inches higher than the kill zone floor during this activation. So just changing, just clarifying how that works. So just some nice general clarifications for Tempestus Aquilons. Then for Void Dancer Troupe, for the faction rules Harlequin's Panoply, whenever a friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative is climbing up, you can treat that vertical distance as 2. So this is really good. So well, it's not good for Void Dancer Troupe players. It used to be 1 inch. I was actually going to recommend this as one of my changes that we need in the next balanced data slate, because I think climbing for 1 was too good. Now they climb for 2, that actually slows down Harlequins quite a lot, and they can only use this while climbing up. So, my gosh, this is technically an indirect nerf to Void Dancer Troupe, which is great, but it's great for everyone else. Not great for Void Dancer Troupe, but great for everyone else. Then for Warpcoven, they've seen a new change. For Fate itself is my weapon, you change the relevant parts to read. That replacement dice cannot be re-rolled or retained as a success or critical success. If it's not, and is discarded at the end of that sequence. So there's actually a huge change to Fate It myself. So it does mean that replacement dice can be now changed. So you can change it from a failure to a success or a critical success if you can. So that's actually really good into Warpcoven. It just means it's either not a critical success or it's not rerolled. So you can change it, which is really huge. Some more counterplay into Warpcoven, because Fate itself is a very powerful ploy. Then for Wrecka Krew with Wrecka Rampage, the second sentence and the second paragraph is changed to read, you can gain and spend Wrecka points during the same action, and you can do so in an order of your choice unless you started the action with 6, in which case you can only spend them, which is really, really good. Nice clarification of how that works. And then with the Demolish operative, the Detonate weapon rule, add additional text to end. Damage from this weapon rule cannot be ignored or reduced. So this is when it blows up. So nice there. Really nice changes for Wrecka Krew. Then for Wyrmblade, for unquestioning loyalty as their firefight ploy, if it's a shoot action, that other operative is only in cover or obscured if the original target was. So just a universal change, such as the same for everyone else. So overall for the FAQs and erratas, the general principles that have changed, you can now climb up and climb down, but stuff that benefits you when you're climbing generally only affects when you climb up. But most importantly, you can climb down ladders, which is a big change. Get Down Mr. President and other similar ploys only provide cover and obscuring to the secondary target if the original target was. So no longer working how it used to. Then medics don't work against blast and torrent, so you need to keep in mind about that. But those are the general changes, and then we've seen specific changes. For example, Void Dancer Troupe now climb 2 inches instead of 1 inches, which is a nerf for them. They've clarified how the Plague Marine toxin works when the leader heals wounds. They've buffed the battle mark, so it now always works even when you're charged. There's lots of minor changes here. I think the other big changes are like for Exaction Squad and Inquisition. They now negate super conceal if they're within 4 inches of you with the relevant ploy, which is actually a huge thing to remember for certain teams. But generally, we've had a lot of nice clearing ups. Oh, the portable barricade. You can't end within 2 inches of other terrain features and accessible or access points, which is actually kind of nerfing this weird interaction with jumping. So the only thing they didn't really cover was jumping, but jumping's kind of been a new thing. Plant beacons now don't ignore Gallo Dark Walls, so you have to keep in mind for that with plant beacons. But generally a good holistic a bunch of changes. I know some people are upset that there are nerfs in this FAQ and errata, which, is a bit annoying. And I would generally prefer this to drop when we get balanced data slates. But if we're getting more frequent updates to the FAQs, which we kind of aren't because the last FAQ was in January, it would be nice if they were tied with the balanced data slate, but they seem to be operating on different, time frames with the balanced data slate and the FAQs, which is fine. That's how it works. But yeah, just remember to update the app, and it's nice they now have a user log. So the app is slowly getting better. It's learning how to improve. But that's pretty much it from me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of the FAQs today. Did you find them useful and helpful? What do you think? Was anything Games Workshop missed? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Amman Games, an affiliate link discount code at Crossfire Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. So I'm just going to shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crew, I have Tom, Supercow, Sam, Nick, Mercenary Q, Mr. Meatwad, Lucas, Jeremiah, Graham, Fangzu, Draken, Dave Meets World, Dan, Dada Goldens, Chris, Morpheum, and then for my veterans of the crew, I have Samdra and Mark. So thank you so much for all your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, also, I should have put this at the start. I'm also compiling my own FAQs that I'm going to send to Games Workshop. When instead of just sending my own, I'll send a bunch of FAQs. So there's a channel on my Discord where you can just like send FAQs there. Or if you want to DM me instead, you can. But I'm just compiling them. Not that I'm not a playtester, just doing it for the sake of community, because I usually send over FAQs to the general Kill Team email. But I thought because the guy who was doing them is kind of taking a break, I might as well do it because I've got the Discord and I've got the connections. So just send them to me and then I can send them to Games Workshop. I haven't sent it off yet because I'm waiting for my Goonhammer open next week. So it does mean I can now remove a bunch of questions that people were asking me repeatedly. But remember, no matter what happens with the FAQ and Errata, you always have a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.